Fala, meus Máfia, Fernando Schmude com mais um Leading the Charge no Buffalo Rumblings. E é com muita satisfação hoje que eu tenho aqui comigo Joe Miller participando, ele que faz parte ali também da nossa rede lá do Buffalo Rumblings, com o Overreaction Buffalo Podcast. E vou trocar uma ideia com ele aqui, como vocês já estão acostumados, quando a gente está com um convidado aí gringo, a gente troca essa ideia em inglês e depois nos últimos 30 minutos ali eu tento dar uma traduzida para o português, né, para a galera que não conseguiu pegar todos os detalhes aí em inglês, mas fica à vontade para mandar seus comentários, suas perguntas aqui no chat, né, e a gente vai trocar uma ideia legal aí com o Joe aqui sobre toda essa off-season, as movimentações dos Bills, o que esperar no draft e tudo mais. Vai deixando o seu like aí, se inscreve no canal do Buffalo Rumblings, se inscreve no canal do Fernando Schmude para dar um apoio aqui para o nosso trabalho, para que a gente possa continuar crescendo e alcançando mais ainda a meus Máfia aqui no Brasil e toda a América Latina, por que não? Joe, glad to have you here, my man. Thank you so much for participating. People were like, Fernando, you gotta get Joe Miller here. Come on. And so, finally, thank you so much.
Yeah, dude. No, it's great to be here. It's awesome to be invited. I love the fact that you are on the Buffalo Rumblings network with me. I've been on a little bit of a break, just kind of chilling, taking it easy. This past season was a little bit of a grind on me, so we'll be getting back into that relatively soon and kind of getting more active. But yeah, dude, it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well-deserved vacation time, right?
Yes.
But I'm happy to be able to get you back, drag you back to Bills Talk. And Bills Mafia is really curious about all your stuff and your opinion about this off-season. How's it going? But before talking Bills, let me talk a little bit off-topic stuff. Do you have any connections here with Brazil in special? That I'm from Brazil, so most of the people who follows me or who watches Leading the Charge comes from here. What do you know about our country? Were you aware of this passion for the Buffalo Bills down here?
Dude, it's amazing because Bills Mafia is everywhere. So whether it's, I think, Kyrgyzstan, like there's like in like Serbian countries, like in the Eastern Hemisphere, there's Bills Mafia, obviously all throughout Europe. The Bills fans themselves, Buffalonians, in my opinion, are the most displaced fan base, I think, in the NFL. And what I mean by that is, like, all of us, like me, that are from Buffalo, either right now or at some point will not live in Buffalo anymore. I didn't live here for 15 years. We lived in Columbus, Ohio. So not surprised completely, but it is still a thrill, and it's awesome to know that there is a contingent of Bills Mafia down in Brazil. Never been there, would love to go. My family and I love to travel somewhat abroad. We are looking to go to the Bills game in Europe this year. We love vacationing and going to tropical beach places. So Brazil would be a target for sure, but never been there. Would love to go there and would love to hang out with you guys for a football game sometime. That'd be a blast.
Oh, when you finally can come down here, please let us know. So you have a lot of help from Bills Mafia and you'll be well received here for sure. Rodrigo is already sending a message here in the chat, and he was one of the guys who were like, you gotta get Joe here, and he's here talking and expressing his gratitude for accepting my invitation to participate today. So really excited to have you here. And one thing about Brazil, I think Bills fans in Brazil, we see a kind of Brazilian stuff coming from people from Buffalo, because we pride ourselves like being people who never give up, things like that. And being a Buffalo Bills fan, it's been this way for most of us who's been fans since the 90s and suffering during the drought and things like that. So we stayed loyal, and it's panning out right now, and we expect it to have more soon, right?
Yep. No, there's definitely an attitude. There's a persona. There is a makeup and a character of Bills Mafia, generally speaking, especially if you are from, the city of Buffalo and Erie County, Western New York in general. Just with the snow and the weather that we have and perseverance, like you said, and it goes right along with our sports teams. And I think that's why we are so passionate. So just knowing that you guys share that as well is really cool. Really cool.
Awesome. All right. So, and let's talk Bills stuff, because some people down here, I think it's there are a lot of these kind of people up there too, but some of the Bills fans here are kind of worried about the state of the Bills right now, or that maybe that pessimism that's part of being a Bills fan and thinking, oh, no good things happen to us ever, and some people are worried about the lack of splash moves and the signings being like people that you really they aren't highlight names like big star names right now. And Brandon Bean just told us before the start of the offseason that it would be the case, and people sometimes, I'm not gonna believe you. I think it's gonna be different, right? So, but how do you see this offseason so far? The moves Bean was able to do, the state of this Bills roster right now with the draft ahead at the end of the month. Are you happy with the moves done so far, or do you think something more like DeAndre Hopkins watch and things like that, something like this would be more helpful?
Well, I definitely feel like a DeAndre Hopkins, an addition of DeAndre to this team, would be incredibly helpful. I don't know if you've seen it, but Odell Beckham is now expected to sign with the Baltimore Ravens for $18 million. Well, a max deal of 18. I think he's guaranteed 13 or something like that, which at those numbers, I don't want Odell Beckham, crazy, right? So he can go to Baltimore and have nobody throw him the football, and he can be not happy making $18 million, losing football games versus coming to Buffalo and having an opportunity to win a Super Bowl with us. The state of this franchise, the state of the roster, it's got some holes. We're not necessarily going to fool ourselves, and there's an expectation that some guys are going to step up, and whether it's a guy like Spencer Brown, there's a lot of people that feel like the Bills have a need at right tackle, not considering the fact that Spencer Brown was injured all of pretty much last year, had back surgery all the way through camp and struggled through the season. There's an expectation that a guy like that is going to take a step. You're looking at a guy like James Cook, that we're expecting to take another step and kind of be that RB1, which I feel like he can be. A big knock on James Cook when James Cook was drafted by the Buffalo Bills was his quote unquote contact balance, which is basically when he gets hit, what happens to him, because he didn't have great contact balance in college. But I think he showed last year that he has very good contact balance. He's an inch taller and was last year 10 pounds lighter than his brother Dalvin. But if you look at them, they have very similar body types. They have very similar running styles. So seeing a guy like that take a step, I love what they've done with the offensive line as far as bringing in more competition. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with with Ryan Bates, as far as are they going to keep him on the right? Are they going to move him to the left? Is there going to be a competition there for him? Is there an expectation that he is going to become the center? I don't know if you're aware, but Mitch Morse's contract is up after this season. But when you look at probably the biggest concerns, it's inside linebacker, right? Replacing Tremaine Edmonds. I don't know that Terrell Bernard or Tyrell Dotson are the guys for that spot. You have to expect that the Bills are going to draft somebody like a Jake Campbell, hopefully more like in the second round, halfway through the second to the late second round, that they don't reach for him at 27 or even sooner. But yeah, that middle linebacker spot is going to be a little bit of a problem. Be a concern until they address it, right? I'm not saying that we can't play defense without somebody in that spot. We can't play defense with Tyrell Dotson. It's just probably not going to be ideal. Defensive line, there's some concern there too. I think the opportunity that the Bills have taken advantage of to rotate defensive linemen the way they have in the past few years, I don't think they're going to be able to do that this year. I'm actually happy about that. But Ed Oliver is looking at making $10.7 million this year, so we've got a team that's strapped for cash. That's a very quick and easy place to make a trade, right? And move a guy on and actually get that 10.7 back to allow you to make a quote unquote splash play to go get an inside linebacker or to make a move for a DeAndre Hopkins. But wide receiver too, for sure, as well as inside linebacker. But, for all intents and purposes, we still have Josh Allen. And as long as you've got Josh Allen, you've got a chance, right? Now we know, bro, that even with Josh Allen, just putting him out on the field and saying, go win football games isn't going to work. That's when he gets in, he gets into making mistakes, pressing a little bit, doing too much. So they've got to get him some help and put some guys around him. But for all intents and purposes, as long as this football team has Josh Allen as QB1, we've always got a chance.
Awesome to mention that, Joe, because do you think the Bills have maybe relaxed a little bit too much on thinking, okay, Josh gonna do Josh things and elevate people around here and around him, and maybe okay, let's reinforce that defense. Let's invest on this defense side of the ball because we already gave digs to Josh, and that's more than enough. He has an elite number 1 wide receiver, and now he can do his stuff, and it's more than enough. Do you think it might be something that the Bills were a little bit relaxed on, and they maybe now are thinking, okay, we gotta help our franchise guy a little bit more and invest a little bit more on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, there's been some interesting conversation coming out of One Bills Drive from the leadership when you look at Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, both basically changing the conversation, the topic of conversation around Josh Allen from, we want Josh to be Josh. We don't want to change him as a player. We want him to do the things he's good at, which they were inferring running, right? And running with the football and taking off with the football and being a physical quarterback. And, we heard a month ago, both McDermott and Brandon Beane basically say he's got to stop doing that. Like, we got to get him to stop doing that. They feel like, it seems, that he is better served in the pocket more often. You've got to think that if they want him to stay in the pocket, that they know that they've got to get him some help, whether it's, play calling or whether it's, offensive design to, offensive line help to, again, wide receiver. Maybe another tight end. I know Joe Marino is big on a really big tight end. I can't remember his name escapes me, but there's a tight end that's potentially going to be available kind of in that late first round, early second round spot. So yes, I think that they're interested and are concerned about getting some help for Josh Allen. I can't imagine that we go into this season without some guys, still some additions yet to come. Do I know what they are? No, but I just can't imagine this being the football team, this being the roster, like it's finished and we go to camp with these guys and a couple rookies, right?
Yeah, that's true. I have a screen to share here with a depth chart of the Bills right now. Okay, it's more or less depth chart. Just they put something together here. Obviously, we can't know for sure if that's the real depth chart.
Sure,
but looking at it, right, and you said, okay, we have some holes and we got to fill some of those holes on the draft. Probably it's the main part of the free agency is gone right now. Yeah. But we also know that McDermott and the Bills in general, they love to make the rookies earn the playing time and right, they not is given, and hardly ever we saw a guy, even Josh, got a start as a backup before entering the game when Peterman got hurt. So looking at this roster and the holes, like you said, we can talk about wide receiver too. I agree with you. I think it's a big need. I like Gabe Davis, but
yeah,
I think he could have played better. He could have made some plays that would take the Bills farther. Spencer Brown had a really tough year and
tough year. Yep. Yeah, and it's in the comment section. Somebody in there said, hey, it was Peter Wilson said that, that right tackle is 100% a need. You have to wonder where Aaron Kromer and kind of this offensive staff is with Spencer Brown, because they see him every day. They've seen him through his rehab, and do they believe, right, that he has a step to take? So I think the jury's out. Is it 100% need? I don't know about 100%. It's probably 75% need.
All Bean says is awesome about Spencer Brown. He loves Spencer Brown in his interviews, and it's undeniable that obviously he didn't have a good offseason with his back injury and surgery. Right. But it's tough to trust him 100% right now with we've seen on tape, right?
I think what's funny about Spencer Brown especially is, he's not Brian Winters. If you remember Brian Winters, he's not Vlad Ducasse. Like, we've had guys start on this offensive line that were horrendous and should not. He's not Bobby Hart playing right tackle or left tackle. Like, there's other guys on this football team that are awful, that are also pretty awful at blocking. And, maybe they don't play necessarily the offensive line, but from a tight end standpoint, our tight ends don't block well. Our wide receivers, Khalil Shakir, was a nightmare last year trying to block guys. Our running backs don't block well. So I think there's some focus right now on Spencer Brown. It'll be interesting to see what the Bills do. Do they go after a right tackle, or do they feel like they're going to give this kid one more year to try to take that next step and, maybe give him some help, right, with a tight end on the outside, or give him some help with a running back who can chip or something like that?
Absolutely. And even Roger Saffold, he was a big time free agent bust, unfortunately, because
it didn't go
we were expecting a Pro Bowl or Pro kind of player, and the guy really had a tough year. So, but where do you see? You already said inside linebacker, and I'm sorry, but I'm the founder of Terrell Bernard Fan Club, right? No, it's a joke, but I'm of the line of thinking okay, you invested a third round pick on a guy who can't be only counted to okay, he's a Milano backup, and that's where he's gonna play all his Bills career, and that's it. I can't believe Brandon Beane would waste a third round pick on a guy like that. So I'd like to see what he can do, right? But obviously some change needs to be made so he can try. You can give him a chance to work, like booking up the defensive tackle position maybe, and stuff like that. Some stuff that maybe McDermott can be willing to try. But still, wide receiver too, man. I really would love to see a early draft pick being spent there. Yeah. I was even watching yesterday. I was watching a Bills Seahawks game from 2004, because one of the biggest mysteries in my life is how that 2004 Bills didn't make the playoffs, right? Because that team was loaded.
Was that the cheeseburger game, the Willis McGahee and Drew Bledsoe game, where Drew Bledsoe dropped back and then kind of sidearmed the ball to Willis McGahee and he ran for a touchdown that game?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we lost Travis Henry early in the game and almost lost McGahee in the next drive. But the thing that really popped for me was how Lee Evans was a contributor as a rookie, right? We had Modes, obviously he was a stud, just like we have Diggs now. But Lee Evans as a rookie, and the guy was trusted so much by Bledsoe, and to make plays in the red zone, to make plays in the end zone, and obviously he was the 13th pick. But can the Bills find a guy like this in this draft? What do you think of looking at this wide receiver pool? Do you think can we find somebody to maybe have the contribution that Lee Evans had early on?
Well, I mean, obviously, the Bills aren't going to be jumping up to take anybody at 13, right? They're not going to be jumping that high up. If anything, the Bills are going to be dropping back. I know there's some recent mocks or some recent rumors out there that the Bills are talking about moving up. I just can't see the Bills moving up in this draft. There's just not enough, especially the wide receiver standpoint or linebacker kind of value to kind of go up. So are there guys out there? Sure. You never know. Stephon Diggs was a 5th round pick, right? You don't know necessarily what's out there. So for me, this draft comes down to, we've talked about guys like Spencer Brown. Tommy Doyle is a guy that the Bills drafted on potential. Terrell Bernard they wasted. I'm going to say they wasted a 3rd round pick on a kid, who a coach from his college said, this guy's got a high motor and, wants to eat, like he wants to play football and like he's got great football smarts. And the dude could barely get on the game day roster last year. So in my opinion, what this draft comes down to is basically, I don't care who they draft. I don't care if they draft offensive line. I don't care if they draft inside linebacker. I don't care if they draft a wide receiver. If they draft 6 guys, 5 of them have to produce. If they draft 7 guys, 6 of them have to produce. They can't be in a situation, in my opinion, in 2023 where they draft 6 guys, 7 guys, and 2 of them work out because they're drafting still on character and potential. I like character. I like potential. But at the end of the day, we need more impact players and less boogie bashams, right? We need less guys that are, as much as we love Greg Rousseau, Greg Rousseau didn't play his senior year. He only played defensive end in college for 1 year at Miami, right? And then when he came in, it was we were all shocked when the Bills took him. It's who's that guy? And they're well, high motor, high potential, big dude, great character, yada, yada, yada. He's kind of working out. He's got a step to take as well. But at the end of the day, can they get a guy in this draft that I mean, Gabe Davis is a third round pick or fourth round pick.
Fourth round pick,
right? And then Isaiah Hodgins is another guy that went late that is now producing for the Giants. There's guys out there to be got, right? So it's just a matter of getting the right guy and not. Sometimes I feel like GMs and head coaches and scouting teams get enamored with a piece or a skill set that somebody can do versus looking at, I don't even know what it is about a guy like Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin can draft wide receivers. Like, I know he was a wide receiver in college, but the Steelers always find great wide receivers at the college level, bring them to the Steelers, and then they produce like guy after guy.
And even late round picks, right?
Right.
Antonio Brown was late.
One right after another. So that's what they've got to do. They've got to find a guy. You know, they're out there. The Bills have to hit on them, in my opinion. And I think they're capable. You know, they did it in 2018. They did it, I believe, in 19. So they're capable of doing it. They just need to find the right guys, the guys that are going to produce like right away. And one of them needs to be, if they're not going to go get DeAndre Hopkins, one of them has to be a wide receiver.
Absolutely. Man, getting DeAndre would be awesome. And I think people are sleeping on how good that guy still is. Like he missed games due to suspension and some injuries, but he put up numbers that were on par of his best seasons during his career. So imagine having him opposite to Diggs and avoiding people to double Diggs all the time, make them pay for picking your poison type of choice. So it would be great. But I don't know if you agree with me. The reason of most people are so eager for big splash movies like Hopkins, or even there were a lot of people who wanted Derrick Henry at running back, and so the big time names. It might be happening because we are not seeing the development from our early round picks developing on great players like Tre'Davious did, or like Josh did, and even Edmonds in his last year. Because as you said, Joe, we have done a great job finding gems late in the round. Milano,
sure.
And even if we think about Levi Wallace, Dan Jackson, they started for a lot of games for a top-ranked defense, right? So late in the draft, we are doing a great job, but those guys are playing better than the expectation, and it's like, what's better than the expectation for a late round pick? The guy being able to be on the field, because a late round pick most of the time is not on the roster, right?
That's right. We need the first round, second round, third round draft picks to be playing better than expectation.
Like the star players we expected, like, okay, it was unfair to expect Ed Oliver to be Aaron Donald. Okay, you don't need to be Aaron Donald, but I would be happy if you could be like Kyle Williams or
somebody better.
You know, come on, right? So I think Kyle Elam this year is stepping up. What we saw from the Dolphins game is exciting, in my opinion. And then Boogie Bash and Epineza, those guys will have snaps to showcase what they can do. They gotta step up because this is part of being an elite team, a contender team. Getting those guys playing up to the standard, right? Otherwise, only Josh is gonna carry the team all he can, and we are always suffering with that. So, how do you see? And who are the guys who you are expecting the most from these guys that maybe Rousseau, Boogie, Epineza? Who do you see stepping up their games and filling those spots badly needed for this team?
Yeah, no, I feel like Greg Rousseau definitely has another step to take in him. I love bringing back Jordan Phillips. Obviously, I love bringing back Jordan Poyer. I know we're talking about more defensive line.
Yeah.
You know, AJ Epinesa has something to prove. Boogie Basham has something to prove. These guys, you know, they're coming out. It's effectively like a lot like kind of like the Shaq Lawson thing. The Bills, you know, took Shaq Lawson high out of Clemson. He was a 3-4, if I'm not mistaken, defensive end. And then, you know, the Bills put him in a 4-3. It didn't really work out. And then he kind of figured his fit out.
Sides, right?
Yeah.
I think it was a 4-3, and Rex Ryan put him in outside linebacker.
Yeah, that's what it was. He was a 4-3, and Rex Ryan moved him into a 3-4, right? And then just as he was kind of figuring it out, he goes to Miami, gets bounced to the Jets, and then comes back to Buffalo and actually does pretty well. You know, these guys are going to have to find it inside themselves. AJ Epinesa, Boogie Basham, some of these young guys are going to have to take that step. They're going to have to do the things, and you hope that they do. But if they don't, it puts the Bills in a really difficult spot, not in as much as we don't have talent. When you look at Von Miller coming back, when you look at Daquan Jones still on this football team and Tim Settle still on this football team, Ed Oliver is another one of those guys that has something to prove this year if he stays on this football team. I very much believe there's going to be a draft day trade for the Buffalo Bills.
You really believe it? I'm talking me out of this expectation.
I think a guy like Corey Davis is available. I think a guy like Corey Davis from the Jets could come in here and actually do great things for this football team as a wide receiver too. And the Bills have some pieces to play. The Bills are deep it's funny because we went last year coming into the season, if you remember, with no cornerback depth at all. It's like, what are we doing? Like Tre'Davious White's injured, and now all of a sudden, like we've got a slew of guys that can play cornerback with Dane Jackson coming back. You said Kaiir Elam, Tre'Davious White is in there, Christian Bernard, Bedford is in there. Like all these guys are there, so that there's some pieces there to potentially move and to kind of play with. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I feel like there's an opportunity for the Bills to make a trade, player for a pick. Something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bills handle it. But from a defensive line standpoint, I mean, it's blatantly obvious, right? I mean, some of these young guys, they've got to do something, or they're not going to be in Buffalo.
Absolutely. And you already talked about Jack Campbell, and it seems you really like the guy. And I would be happy with the pick, despite being on the line of thinking that I would like to see Bernard getting a shot. But I think Campbell, if you want somebody who can replace what Edmonds did, Campbell is your guy, right? He's a clone. Edmonds.
Well, he's not Edmonds' clone, but he's close, right? He's not maybe a little more of an anchor, maybe not as sideline to sideline, but he's close, right? So he's the guy that everybody's talking about, whether it's Joe Marino, who we all love and respect. Some of the other draft guys are talking about him kind of maybe being a fit. The question is where, right? So not at 27. Don't take him at 27. So go slide back or slide up in the second round, but don't take him in the first round at 27. So
and Joe, other thing about him, because you can't go to the draft like, okay, I have one guy that I need this guy, and all it takes is one team to jump ahead of you or to overdraft the guy, like, oh, we really love him and we're going to draft him even before 27. And you were surprised and you missed your guy. And what you're going to do moving forward, right? Yep. So do you see other prospects at the linebacker position that you feel comfortable replacing Edmonds as day one starter? How do you see the situation?
I don't have any.
Sanders, maybe. I see a lot of people talking about Drew Sanders, but it's sure.
It's pretty barren. I mean, there's not a whole lot left in free agency as far as that goes. I mean, the Bills are going to have to find a guy, scheme him right. You almost wonder if a guy, and this is a horrible thought, but if a guy like AJ Klein is in play, right? I mean, as the Bills began to learn, when AJ Klein got here, he was awful, right? I think we all know that. We were like, why is this guy on the football team? And then the Bills kind of began to figure out AJ Klein and how to get him to be productive. And he filled in okay, right? Okay at times for Tremaine or for Matt Milano when those guys were hurt. The question is how old is he? Is he losing a step? Has he lost a step? Is he better than Tyrel Dotson? Is he better than a Terrell Bernard? Terrell Bernard's size is going to be a problem. He's obviously quick and speedy and shifty. But I don't know that I've got a plug and play like, oh, that's the guy. Go get that guy. I don't know that there's a linebacker version of DeAndre Hopkins for this football team right now. Whether it's in the draft, a can't miss prospect, or a guy that's in free agency. I feel like it's going to be, we're going to bring in 5 guys, and we're going to let them fight it out. And however this ends up, it ends up, right? That's what I think is going to happen.
Awesome. All right. And how confident are you in Gabe Davis rebounding this year? Because Gabe had some drops, but he also had some good moments. So some people are already giving up, and it's undeniable that he showed some promise early and 2 years ago and in the playoffs. And sometimes last year.
I don't know anybody that doesn't like Gabe Davis. The question around Gabe Davis right now is, this is the last year of his contract, right? So is Gabe Davis a guy you're going to give $18 million a year to? Are you going to give Gabe Davis $16 million? And he didn't drop some passes. He dropped 48% of his passes. Like he dropped a lot of passes. That's another conversation about DeAndre Hopkins, who went an entire season and didn't drop a pass, whatever it was, 4 years or 5 years ago. That's a big deal. I mean, Zay Jones, we walked Zay Jones out the door because he dropped 50% of the passes that were thrown to him.
True.
I like Gabe Davis. I like Gabe Davis a lot. I think he's a great football player. I think he's a great wide receiver. I just think he struggles, or did struggle last year with the ankle injury, obviously. And then in that wide receiver 2 spot, basically because of the coverage that he was drawing. Teams figured out how to stop Diggs and Davis. And the way that they figured that out was they put their number 1 corner on Gabe Davis and then bracketed Diggs. And because there wasn't really a threat in the middle from the slot with no Cole Beasley and no real production out of the slot guys we had, it just basically sent this entire offense into the dirt. Now, Gabe Davis, if you can find a guy to be a solid contributing wide receiver 2, like an Emmanuel Sanders, right? Like a John Brown when John Brown was playing well, it moves Gabe Davis into that number 3 role. And Gabe Davis can beat anybody, right? That's going to cover him in that number 3 role. Like, Gabe is going to excel and dominate in that position. Now, the question is can he take a step? And we've talked about Spencer Brown taking a step. We've talked about Ed Oliver, Bogey Basham, AJ Epinesa taking a step. We've talked about a lot of these guys, James Cook taking a step. Can he take a step? I'm not going to say he can't, but the Bills grossly overestimated what they had last year in this wide receiver room. And for me, I'd be a little concerned if they went into this season this year kind of in that same expectation that, no, these are our guys and we're going to stick with them and hope for the best, because they hoped for the best last year and it didn't really work out. I mean,
ended up bringing people out of retirement, not for just one, almost 2, like John Brown and Beasley.
Yeah, bringing them off the street. And they were basically looking for somebody who could beat zone coverage, because the guys we had playing the slot could not find the soft spots in the zone, which is what Josh needed. Josh needed that soft zone outlet receiver that he always had in Cole Beasley. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Gabe. I like Gabe. I'm not ready to necessarily throw in the towel, but I don't know that I'm going to give him another contract, especially the money that wide receivers get in the NFL, right? I mean, it's crazy.
True, that's true. Joe, we talked about our guys, like the guys we drafted and trying to develop and things like that. But again, the free agent people that the Bills brought in, McGovern, Edwards, Deontay Hardy, the names aren't really awesome, right? But if you remember correctly, when McDermott just arrived, he brought in Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, and those guys weren't like all pros like they are right now.
John Brown is one of those guys. Yeah.
So and nobody, I still couldn't find anyone who thought Jordan Poyer would be a starter even. Right. So who are the guys do you believe can surprise us really? Because I'm curious about Hardy, to be fair, because he seems like a guy who has the speed and maybe the problem is being healthy, but he looks like a guy who can surprise. Maybe Josh can work his magic with him, right? But who are the guys you're excited to look and maybe be surprised?
The question you got to ask yourself is, why did they bring Deontay Hardy into this football team? Did they bring him in to play wide receiver, or did they bring him in to return kicks and return punts, right? So is Nyheim Hines going to take a larger role in this offense? Excuse me, almost a 3-headed monster type of a situation with Damian Harris, Cook, and Nyheim, or are they going to let him fight it out and see who wins? But you got to wonder with Hardy's experience in returning in special teams, what his actual role, because this is a team. This is a team that when they build their roster, they don't like a guy to be both. They don't want their returner to also be playing massive snaps on the offensive side of the football. I like the Trent Sherfield signing, believe it or not. I think he's got a decent amount of size. He's got good hands. He's got great attitude. He's a quiet guy that to kind of fits what you're talking about, like a guy that's like a Jordan Poyer that not many people have heard of, but was productive. Hardy is as well. I'm not sure what their intention is for Hardy and his role. I feel like just from watching what they've done in the past that they're bringing him in to basically be that returner guy. And they're going to let Nyheim Hines probably, be a little more, like I said, productive in the offense, in the standard offense. But I believe it or not, I've got more hopes for Sherfield than I do Hardy probably right now for that reason.
Got it. All right. And to finish, okay, I don't want to take too much of your time, and I already passed 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I never can get it in time. I'm sorry. But there are some people just like me, okay, that Bruce was crazy with me here because I'm not a Buddy Nix guy, okay? I'm not like, okay, let's draft another running back in the first round. But there is a guy called Bijan Robinson, right?
Sure.
That I wouldn't be able to resist if he's there at 27. How do you feel about adding a guy like Bijan Robinson to this offense? Because I think he's too good to pass, man.
So Bruce is amazing, and we love Bruce, and Bruce is a hell of a lot smarter than I am. He's probably smarter than both of us put together. But I guess the way that I would pose this is I would ask you a question. So the Buffalo Bills, so it's the first night of the draft. The Bills are up 27. Bijan Robinson's available. The Bills draft him, right? So you're now freaking out. So you're doing the Doug Whaley, got my guy, right?
Yeah,
with Sammy Watkins, right? I got my guy.
Yeah.
And then you wake up Friday morning and you're like, look at your roster, and you're like, I've got James Cook, a second round pick from last year. I've got Damian Harris, who I just picked up, who's a short yardage back that's actually a really good football player. I got Naheem Hines, who I invested a draft pick in a trade. Now we got Bijan Robinson. What are you doing with these guys? Like, which one are you cutting? Which one are you trading? You understand what I'm saying? Like, so what do you do on Friday morning when that's your roster? What do you do?
I would find a way to move somebody. Maybe
Who are you moving?
Maybe Hines, in my opinion, because Harris is too cheap to be moved, right? And Cook was just a second round pick, and I don't know, man. I think because it applies to like a regular running back or a good running back, but I really believe Bijan Robinson is totally different, man. Like I haven't seen this kind of ability to stop and start and explosive and total package, and look at what Breece Hall did to the Jets offense last year when he was healthy. They had no quarterback, and they had a lot of trouble, but he was consistently got it going and got that offense going. So I think Bijan would be an amazing weapon. So even Josh would be able to check down a couple of passes and say, oh, this kind of check down stuff works with Bijan. Right? So I don't know, man. I just think when we think about the 90s Bills, obviously different era, and you can't base anything on that. But we have our Jim Kelly, we have our Andrew Reid, okay? We have our Bruce in Von Miller, but where is our Thurman? And hopefully James can be that Cook, right? But Bijan is a sure thing, in my opinion. So I'd love to ask him.
The best case scenario is 27 rolls up. First night of the draft, Bijan Robinson's on the board, and the Bills can get a haul for him. Like there's somebody that needs a running back, and he's a generational talent, and somebody's willing to pay not a king's ransom for the 27th pick overall, but they're willing to pay enough to not let him continue to slide right back down to whoever's behind us, or somebody pick him up cheap in the second round. So that to me would be the best case scenario. I just can't see the Bills taking another running back. I'm not saying it won't happen, but taking a running back number one in the first round after taking James Cook last year, because I think the Bills are high on James Cook. And I think when you watch what James Cook did in the last 6 games of the season last year, his contact balance, his patience, the way that he was setting up blocks, I think he can be everything that you want him to be, right? And I'm not sure there's a luxury out there for them to have 2 running backs on this team that's a first round pick and a second round pick 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And even watching James Cook, I used to be a big time Vince Young fan since the Longhorns game. So I watched a lot of rookie CJ2K playing for the Titans. And James Cook kind of reminds me a little bit as a rookie, because people weren't expecting CJ2K to be an every down back. And
he was tiny.
He played alongside Lendell White.
Big cat. Bruiser guy.
Bruiser guy. Yep. And they used it to call them smash and dash and things that. And then he started to be too good to be just the dash guy, and he starts to be the main guy, right? I think James Cook can be that guy too. So I agree. It's probably the best. It's the smartest way to go. Bijan is just one guy that would make me throw everything that makes sense out of the window, right? Because I'm like, okay, or draft Bijan or don't draft running back at all, because I like our running back run and room. And as you said, Harris is a really good player, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Harris even getting more touches than what we expect.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, John, thank you so much for taking your time to be here, man. I'm sure Bills Mafia here in Brazil really enjoyed this. and since you don't have a Brazilian team yet, okay, soccer team, let me show you. That's your Brazilian soccer team. Okay?
Let's go.
That's Botafogo. Okay. We just won a title today, so
I'm a champion. I'm a champion.
Yeah, we're champions, man. And the owner is American. So you have the connection, right?
All right.
American owner and things like that. So Botafogo is the team that Bills Mafia is adopting up there, right? Nice. Already got Anthony Marino and Greg Thompson.
Nice.
Anthony Prohaska. Everybody's Botafogo, okay? So
nice. I'm in.
So thank you so much, man, for taking your time. I really appreciate it. Yeah. And the doors will be always wide open so you can be here in the show and talking Bills stuff. It's been a blast to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Fernando, you're the man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Thanks, man. I'm going to continue in Portuguese.
Sounds good. Go Bills.
See ya. Go Bills. Guys, I want to say thank you to Sarah. I'm not sure if Sarah is still here, and Robbie and Richard and all people, Adam, people from Bills Mafia up there being here with us. And I really appreciate it. I'm going to continue in Portuguese, all right? A lot of people going to understand it also and couldn't in English. So I appreciate all American Bills Mafia who's been here with us today. Sarah is here on the chat for the first time. Thank you so much. And everybody here, really, really appreciate. And hit the like button, please. Don't forget to hit the like button. A blast to have Joe here. And let's continue in Portuguese, right? Gustavo, parceiro, mandou aqui, cara, eu acabei pulando aqui, nem vi, meu. Mas é isso mesmo, aqui, ó, o Gustavo falando, Chiefs e Bengals sempre draftando e trazendo ótimos jogadores para a franquia, né? Para os quarterbacks da franquia, para ajudar. A gente precisa batê-los, a gente tem que fazer a mesma coisa. E é isso, Gustavo. É um pouco do que eu falei com o Joe hoje aqui, né? E vou começar, então, dessa parte aqui. Joe, muito simpático, sabe? Muito, muito legal aí tá com o Joe participando hoje do nosso Lead in the Charge. E, assim, eu mencionei para ele, né, cara? Tipo, a gente olha o elenco, até vou jogar na tela de novo aqui, o elenco dos Bills aí, atual, e a gente vê muita gente aí que tá na hora de mostrar algo a mais, né, cara? Porque senão a gente fica toda hora, pô, tem que trazer o Hopkins, tem que trazer o Derrick Henry, tem que trazer o Von Miller, trouxe o Stephon Diggs, tem que pagar o Josh Allen. E aí, pô, toda hora tem que trazer estrela, né, cara? E não dá, né? Haja dinheiro, haja espaço no cap. Então, esse pessoal que a gente drafta cedo, né? E o Joe falou sobre isso também, a gente precisa desse pessoal jogando melhor. A gente precisa do Greg Rousseau, que o Joe Miller já falou que ele acredita que tem um level a mais aí para abrir, né? Para jogar, precisa dele dar esse próximo passinho nessa próxima temporada e jogar melhor. O Ed Oliver, que está no ano de contrato, né? O Joe acredita que ele vai ser trocado no draft aí, uma troca, de repente, até mencionou ali o Corey Davis, wide receiver do Jets, né? Que ele acha que pode ser uma ótima peça com wide receiver 2, e eu concordo. Acho que é um cara também, né, com pedigree de primeira rodada ali, top 10, né, no draft, na época do Titans. Nunca se tornou o que se esperava, mas é um wide receiver 2 que acho que faria o estrago aí no ataque dos Bills. Enfim, eu não acho que... Eu já falei pro Joe, né, que eu tô meio que me convencendo que não vai rolar a troca do Ed Oliver por ninguém, e a gente vai ver ele num ano de contrato aí, de repente jogar o seu melhor futebol. Tá na hora, né? Tá na hora. Eu falei, a gente esperava, né? Não precisa ser o Aaron Donald, que se falava, não é justo comparar ele ao Aaron Donald, que foi a comparação desde a época do draft, né? Mas, pô, então, beleza, falei o Kyle Williams, né? Que não vai ser o total package que o Kyle Williams era como líder e tudo mais, mas dentro de campo, pô, ser um Marcel Darius, ser um cara top 10 aí, um defensive tackle que realmente faz a diferença, os flashes que a gente vê do Oliver se tornar uma realidade, né? Então, assim, tá na hora disso, né? Até mesmo a posição do linebacker, que o Joe, ao contrário de mim, espera que os Bills não draftem o Campbell na 27, mas deem um jeito de ficar com ele no draft, porque ele não vê um outro linebacker para chegar e jogar no lugar do Edmonds, não, né? E, de fato, é difícil achar alguém que ofereça praticamente algo que o Edmonds oferecia, né? E o Joe até menciona isso, falando que, olha, próximo, né? Não é muito sideline como o Edmonds, mas mais próximo do que o Edmonds oferecia de tamanho e habilidade atlética e tudo mais. Mas assim, tá na hora, pô. Você draftou o Bernard na terceira rodada, põe o cara para jogar e ele precisa mostrar alguma coisa, né? Não adianta só os nossos jogadores late round jogar melhor do que a gente esperava e aí eles conseguem se tornar titulares ou ver o campo, né? Que foi o caso do Benford, foi o caso do Milano, que se tornou muito melhor do que a gente esperava, né? Mas não adianta só isso, né? O Taron Johnson e tudo mais. A gente precisa desses caras que foram draftados cedo. Kyrie Irving, ano que vem, nessa próxima temporada, ele tem que jogar como um cornerback 1, cara. Ele tem que jogar... não, ele tem que jogar igual o Sauce Gardner. Porra, não é assim também, né? O Sauce Gardner já é, de repente, o melhor cornerback da NFL. Mas, pô, ele tem que jogar como um cornerback 1. A gente tem que ter o Tre'Davious White voltando a jogar num ótimo nível e o Kyrie Irving elevando, jogar o que ele jogou contra o Miami Dolphins no playoffs, jogar todo o jogo, jogar, né? Estabelecer aquilo ali como o nível dele. A gente precisa ver o James Cook, né, que foi draftado na segunda rodada, se estabelecer como um running back realmente perigosíssimo ali, que faça a diferença para a gente, né? Então a gente precisa dessa evolução desses jogadores que a gente viu escolhas cedo no draft serem usadas nesses caras. Isso faz parte, né, da evolução de uma equipe contender, de uma equipe que quer brigar todo ano na NFL. Olha o Chiefs jogando no Super Bowl. Cara, o que o Nick Bolton jogou, linebacker, segunda rodada, o Nick Bolton na primeira temporada, ele ele era um titular ali rotacional, ele não estava todo snap em campo, não, na temporada dele de novato, pouco parecido com a situação do Kyrie Irving. Cara, na segunda temporada, ele totalmente assumiu o papel de linebacker principal da equipe e no Super Bowl ele foi um monstro, velho. O que ele jogou no Super Bowl, né, foi digno de... Eu cheguei a mencionar, se o Edmonds joga todo o jogo assim, cara, você tem que pagar o cara e manter de qualquer jeito, né? Então, assim, os Bills precisam desse impacto, dessas escolhas de primeira e segunda rodada. E quem são esses caras para levar o nível? É o Greg Rousseau, é finalmente o Epeneza e o Bug Bash oferecer, mostrar mais do que eles têm mostrado, né? Até o Matt Parrino escreveu recentemente do Bug Bash e falando que nas primeiras 3-4 semanas ele jogou muito bem na temporada passada e depois começou a cair de rendimento e até perdeu espaço para o Shaq Lawson, né? Então, assim, a gente precisa desses caras evoluindo, faz parte. Não dá para a gente querer toda hora. E óbvio, se der para trazer o DeAndre Hopkins agora, show, faz a troca e traz. É um cara que vai trazer garantido, né, uma produção. Mas não dá para em todas as posições a gente ir atrás de estrelas e caras renomados. Não tem como, não dá, não tem espaço no cap, não tem bala, né, na agulha ali em termos de escolhas para conseguir as trocas por todos esses caras, né? Mas o que dá para fazer? Dá para desenvolver melhor esses jogadores e contar com uma evolução deles, e é necessária essa evolução para que os Bills continuem a ser super competitivos ou consigam dar o próximo passo, né, nos playoffs. Caso contrário, vai ser aquilo ali que o Joe falou. Enquanto a gente tem o Josh Allen, a gente sempre tem uma chance. E o Josh Allen sempre vai carregar o time, vai botar o time para ser competitivo e tudo mais. Só que, cara, a gente precisa dar o próximo passo, então ele precisa de mais ajuda. Então ele precisa desses caras que foi feito esse investimento, que realmente consigam elevar o jogo deles e se tornarem estrelas desenvolvidas dentro de Buffalo, né? Quem foi a última estrela que os Bills desenvolveu dentro do elenco, draftado pelo Buffalo Bills? O Josh Allen, né? Antes do Josh Allen, o Tre'Davious White, que agora, pós-lesão, não está ainda jogando novamente naquele nível pró-estrela. O Matt Milano, né? Que foi uma escolha late, mas e escolha cedo, né? Se a gente pegar escolhas de primeira e segunda rodada, a gente não conseguiu draftar uma super estrela ali, né? No Ed Oliver não se tornou esse cara. Eu espero que o Ilan possa se tornar. Quem que a gente vai draftar esse ano, de repente, vai chegar já com esse impacto? Eu mencionei para o Joe Miller ali que eu estava até assistindo ontem o jogo ali de Bills e Seahawks, né? De 2004, né? O Lee Evans era novato, né? E foi 13ª escolha. E, cara, era um wide receiver, não era um, porque o Bills tinha o Eric Moulds, que era um monstro, né? Mas o Lee Evans já era um wide receiver 2, totalmente estabelecido e contribuindo muito como novato ali, e sendo uma peça importantíssima. Os Bills conseguiriam achar alguém nesse draft, e o Joe, né? Eu perguntei isso pro Joe, e ele falou, cara, a gente nunca sabe, né? O próprio Diggs foi uma escolha de quinta rodada e tudo mais. A gente nunca sabe o que vai achar e tal, mas seria bom, né? a gente conseguir achar uma peça como essa. Eu acho que, de repente, o Indigba é esse tipo de peça, de repente, que você imagina muito que vai chegar e vai produzir já no slot, mas não deve estar lá na 27 para nós, né? Deve estar saindo ali nos teams ali, né? Na 13, 14, 15, né? Se fala muito com o Patriots até. Outro wide receiver que eu vejo assim é o Jordan Edson, né? Eu acho que o Jordan Edson pode ser um cara com um impacto estilo Lee Evans, de chegar e se tornar o seu wide receiver 2 logo de cara, assim, tomar conta dessa posição e contribuir de cara. Eu acho que o Edson é um cara que pode ter esse papel, e tem gente já contando que ele possa cair e sobrar para os Bills. Cara, se sobra um cara desse na 27, né, os Bills, na minha opinião, tem que segurar, não tem como. Né? E aí eu até fui para o lado, perguntei para ele do Bijan Robinson, né, e o Joe Miller falou, né, pô, Fernando, já tem o Cook, que foi um investimento alto, tem o Hines, né, trouxeram o Harris barato, pô, quem que a gente vai trocar, como é que a gente vai fazer, o que vai fazer com esses caras se escolher o Bijan, né? E eu falei, realmente, né, concordo que a nossa sala de running backs me parece muito boa, né, o grupo de running backs, mas o Bijan é uma arma, gente, que eu acho que ele chega e ele te oferece um cara que vai estar em campo e que vai ser uma ameaça que o coordenador defensivo adversário vai ter que se preocupar a todo momento, seja no jogo aéreo, seja correndo com a bola. É um cara que vai impactar a todo momento, logo de cara, e vai ser muito importante, sabe? Então, só por isso eu abro essa exceção para o Bijan Robinson, não abro isso para nenhum outro running back. Não tem outro running back que eu consideraria draftar nem na segunda, nem terceira rodada, para ser bem honesto com vocês. Running back, para mim, é no final do draft ou até undraftado, nem precisa draftar para essa temporada, porque já temos uma sala decente. Ou você traz o cara que vai ser um total diferencial, que é o caso do Bijan Robinson, na minha opinião, ou você segue com esse seu grupo que tem jogadores interessantes. Eu até mencionei pro Joe ali a questão do James Cook, como ele me lembra um pouco o CJ2K, lá na época do Titans, cedo, né, que foi draftado primeira rodada, mas era um jogador complementar com o Landell White, que era um cara, um power back bem truncado, forte realmente, né? E o CJ começou a se desenvolver e começou a ser muito bom para um jogador complementar num backfield ali de 2 running backs e acabou se tornando o running back principal da equipe, né? E uma estrela, e correu para mais de 2.000 jardas e tudo mais. E o James Cook, de repente, tem esse potencial, ele mostrou flashes interessantes, e de repente vai ter essa oportunidade nessa próxima temporada de se tornar esse running back 1 aí para os Bills e essa peça muito importante aí para esse ataque, né? Mas realmente o Bijan é o único talento que eu vejo assim que, cara, não dá para passar. E aí na posição de running back, e aí o Joe Miller falou, cara, a melhor situação de repente é o Bijan tá na 27 e alguém te oferecer um bom valor por ele, né? Com boas escolhas e tal, para draftá-lo, e aí a gente conseguir descer um pouco da 27, adicionar escolhas, e realmente seria uma escolha muito inteligente, seria uma situação bem inteligente para se fazer se você está no lugar do Brandon Beane e vai nessa direção, né? Perguntei para o Joe também sobre essas adições aí no nosso roster, né? A gente adicionou jogadores que não chamam a atenção pelo nome, né? A gente, você pensa Deontay Hart, você pensa McGovern, Edwards, né? E aí você não vê um nome assim, pô, esse cara chegou e vai resolver, né? Mas quando a gente trouxe Hyde, Poyer, foi da mesma maneira. Então eu perguntei pro Joe, você vê alguém aí que de repente você aposta as fichas e se tornar um cara como o Jordan Poyer, que realmente surpreenda a todos e consiga um papel maior do que todo mundo espera, né? Com a chegada e tal. E aí eu falei do Hart, né? Que eu tô curioso com o Deontay Hart e tal. E aí ele falou assim, cara, ele não sabe ao certo se o Hart vai ter essa possibilidade de jogar como wide receiver ou se veio mais para a função de retornador e com isso deixando o Naheem Hines como uma peça mais ativa na rotação de running backs. Ele desconfia que esse seja o caso, né? Eu não concordo muito com ele nessa situação. Eu acho que o Deontay Hart é um cara que vem mais para um papel na posição de wide receiver, com velocidade, no mínimo o papel que o Mackenzie fazia antes do ano passado. O Mackenzie ano passado se tornou o slot principal da equipe, né? Mas aquele papel que o Mackenzie fazia de trick plays, de entrar no slot ali revezando e tal, eu acho que o Hart chega um pouco mais para isso, mas o Joe Miller tem essa suspeita que o Hart tenha vindo para ser o retornador, o que também faz sentido, né? O Harty foi um retornador ao próprio, principalmente de punts, então pode ser que os Bills vão nessa direção. Acho que muita coisa vai ser decidida também no training camp. Mas ele falou do Sherfield, né, que veio do Dolphins, e de fato é um cara que surpreendeu. A torcida do Dolphins gosta muito dele. É um cara que, óbvio, o Dolphins estabelecido com Tyreek Hill e o Waddle nas posições de wide receiver, mas o Sherfield, ele teve seus momentos ali. É um cara com velocidade, é um cara físico, né, é um cara que pode realmente surpreender na posição de wide receiver e cavar um espaço nesse ataque ali. Então, é intrigante realmente essa opinião e essa opção do Joe Miller. E eu acho que, assim, de maneira geral, passamos pelo elenco, né? E ele falou dessa necessidade de tampar de vários buracos aí, que os Bills, de repente, se superestimaram o elenco que tinha ano passado, e isso acabou aparecendo depois. Então, buracos aí na rotação de defensive end, com a falta desses jogadores realmente mostrarem um nível melhor, né? Rousseau, Boogie Basham, Epenesa. Buraco na posição de linebacker, e ele não está confortável apostando no Terrell Bernard, não consegui recrutá-lo pro fã-clube do Terrell Bernard, né? Brincadeiras à parte, faz total sentido questionar o Bernard, ou o Dodson, ou o Spector, né, nessa função do Edmonds, porque os caras não têm o que o Edmonds tinha em combinação de tamanho, força, velocidade, né? E aí você tem um prospecto como o Jack Campbell, que talvez oferece muito perto disso. De repente é essa direção que a gente se sente mais confortável em ir. Eu continuo batendo nessa tecla que eu vejo o McDermott, de repente, mudando algumas coisas nessa defesa. Os caras amam draftar defensive tackle, amavam lá na época do Carolina Panthers, draftaram o Lotulelei, primeira rodada, draftaram o Kawan Short, primeira rodada, draftaram o Vernon Butler, primeira rodada, em 3 anos consecutivos. De repente, draftar um Siaki Ika ali para aumentar esse tamanho ali na linha defensiva e te dar essa possibilidade de jogar com o Bernard, de jogar até com o Taylor Rapp como um dime linebacker ali, né, um nickel dime linebacker em situações claras de passe. Então, eu acho que o McDermott pode mudar um pouco essa defesa, né, em termos de esquema, do que a gente está acostumado a ver com o Edmonds. Eu acho que se deixaram ir embora, né, e não quiseram pagar, e se fosse essa peça totalmente insubstituível que muita gente vê e está preocupada, de repente os Bills não deixavam ter ido embora, por mais que é um valor muito caro, mas, pô, o contrato que foi dado para o Jordan Phillips, ele preenche facilmente o gap ali que faltaria, de repente, para que o Bills estava supostamente disposto a pagar o Edmonds e o que ele recebeu. Então, né, não sei se realmente os Bills faziam tanta questão assim de segurar o Tremaine Edmonds. Tá? Então, eu acho que pode rolar mudanças de esquema nessa defesa, e com isso acredito sim que Bernard, que Dodson, que Spector vão ter oportunidade de mostrar o que podem fazer no training camp, e aí os Bills vão ter que tomar decisão relacionada a isso. Perguntei se ele via algum outro linebacker, né, já que ele está tão confiante no Jack Campbell para fazer esse papel, um outro linebacker nesse draft, de repente, que ele se sentiria confortável para o lugar do Adams. Ele fala que não, né, que realmente é o Campbell ou nada, né, não vê outros caras. Falei do Drew Sanders, ele não acredita, né, então é uma situação que eu não consigo imaginar o Bean, o McDermott indo para o draft tão locados, assim, né, tão travados numa escolha. É o Campbell que a gente vai escolher, até porque, como eu falei para o Joe Miller, né, basta uma equipe que esteja disposta a draftar o cara mais cedo do que os Bills esperam para surpreender e você ficar sem o prospecto que você está tanto mirando, né? Então, não acredito muito que os Bills estejam tão vidrados assim, né, no Jack Campbell, ou numa necessidade tão grande assim de ter alguém para fazer exatamente o que o Edmonds fazia. Afinal de contas, não é todo time na NFL que tem um cara ali de 6'5", 255 para ser o middle linebacker ali e impactar linha de passe com uma baita envergadura e tal, né? Isso não é uma realidade para toda a equipe. Não é à toa que o Edmonds foi o único linebacker que realmente viu uma boa grana nessa free agency, né? Então, vamos ter que aguardar realmente para ver qual que vai ser a direção tomada nessa situação. O Gilson aqui dando boa noite, o Gilson Júnior, boa noite, Bills Máfia. Com o pedigree defensivo do nosso coach staff, difícil acreditar que a nossa primeira escolha seja uma posição ofensiva. Gilson, por um lado sim, cara, mas é como o Joe Miller mesmo falou, a gente vê uma mudança no que o McDermott, no que o Brandon Beane tem falado, né, do que era no passado para o que é agora. A gente vê uma mudança até nas atitudes do McDermott, assim, com certeza, cara, nesse último ano a gente viu o McDermott confiando muito mais no Josh Allen no ataque do que no passado, que eu cobrei aqui. Se a gente pegar os leading the chart do ano retrasado, cara, como eu falava, eu ficava louco da vida com o McDermott no sentido de, você tem o Josh Allen, você tem um franchise quarterback, você continua fazendo pontos o suficiente para começar a jogar, tirar o pé e jogar defensivamente e controlar o resultado. Não, pé no acelerador, mete mais pontos e tal. Né? Ele continuava sempre cedendo para o lado da defesa, tanto que os Bills ficaram naquela de ceder para a defesa ganhar o jogo contra o Chiefs, né? Faltando 13 segundos, a defesa não conseguiu. E aquilo ali eu acho que impactou um pouco a mudança do McDermott de falar, não, vamos passar a confiar no nosso franchise quarterback, no nosso ataque, e vamos complementar com a defesa. Tá? Então eu acho que a defesa passou a ser um pouco mais um complemento ao Allen, ao ataque, tá, Gilson? E eu acho que, cara, eu acho que a primeira escolha é bem provável que seja ofensiva, tá? Eu estou bem esperançoso de ser um wide receiver ou o Bijan Robinson, né? Mas eu acho que está entre wide receiver e tackle, tá? Offensive tackle, tá? Essa primeira escolha. Eu acho que é bem possível que a gente veja isso. Afinal de contas, um offensive tackle ali, ele pode tanto jogar como titular e melhorar o nível como right tackle, ou, né, ele pode perder essa batalha para o Spencer Brown de início, mas ser movido para dentro, tentar o cara de guard, desenvolver o cara, né, para melhorar essa nossa linha ofensiva, a proteção ao Josh Allen, o jogo terrestre e tudo mais. Então, eu acho que é bem possível a escolha ser ofensiva, tá? E se não for ofensiva, cara, eu iria para esse caminho ali de trocar o Ed Oliver, draftar um defensive tackle maior, né, de qualidade cedo, para ser titular logo de cara na rotação ali, né, e de repente trocar o Oliver por alguma peça interessante aí, uma parte da troca do DeAndre Hopkins, de repente, o seu wide receiver 2, eu tentaria alguma coisa nesse sentido, tá? Mas fora isso aí, eu acho que essa direção de wide receiver ou tackle eu acho bem possível na 27, tá? Até com o talento que vai estar disponível ali, né? Vendo pelos mocks, tá? Beleza, galera? Então é isso, batendo uma horinha aí de Leading the Chart. Eu quero agradecer a participação de todos. Foi uma troca de ideia bem legal com o Joe Miller, um cara excepcional, né? E vale a pena acompanhar o trabalho dele também com o Overreaction Podcast lá do Buffalo Rumblings, tá? E no final brinquei com ele, apresentei ali o Botafogo e tal, né? Tô trazendo a torcida dos gringos pro fogão, tem jeito. Mas o importante aqui é Bills Máfia, é falar de Bills, né? Brincadeiras à parte. A gente é tudo Bills aqui e eu quero agradecer muito a todos que estiveram comigo nessa hora aí, falando com o John Miller, acompanhando até agora. Tem alguma dúvida, algo que eu deixei de mencionar? Deixa a pergunta aí que a gente troca uma ideia rapidão. Vou deixar na tela aqui o Pix para quem quiser colaborar com o Leading the Chart e com o meu trabalho, o canal do Fernando Schmude, fernandoschmude@hotmail.com. Qualquer valor é muito bem-vindo, ajuda bastante. Gente, antes de ir embora, terça-feira, Steve Johnson vai estar aqui, tá? Steve Johnson na terça-feira, não sei como que o Steve aceitou, mas aceitou, tá? Então já tá tudo marcado, terça-feira às 19 horas, tá? A gente vai ter o Steve Johnson aqui com a gente, vou falar muito de wide receiver com o Steve, vou falar da carreira dele, vou pedir a opinião dele sobre os wide receivers dos Bills, opinião dele sobre os prospectos. Fiquem à vontade para mandar pergunta no chat, a gente vai ter o Steve aqui 35 minutinhos com a gente, tá? E ele pediu uma doação lá para a caridade dele lá, ele vai divulgar um pouco a caridade dele aí também, ele que está fazendo um trabalho muito legal de mentorando a galera ali, né, e treinando a galera para se tornar aí jogadores no college e tudo mais. Então, quem puder também colaborar aí para me dar uma força para ajudar a pagar ali a doação lá do Steve, já ajuda bastante, mas de qualquer forma estou muito feliz de poder trazer, vai ser o primeiro ex-jogador, né? Ex-jogador dos Bills que vai participar com a gente aqui no Leading the Charge. E, cara, pô, quem melhor que o Steve Johnson para ser esse cara, né, velho? Um cara que foi uma lenda, foi um ídolo aí para todos nós que acompanham os Bills aí há mais tempo aí, né? E é um cara que, pô, sabe muito da posição. Vai ser muito legal trocar essa ideia com o Steve. Então, Na terça-feira, às 19 horas, todo mundo convidado aí para participar do Leading the Charge, trocar essa ideia com o Steve Johnson aqui com a gente, tá? Então, fica aí o convite. Tá na tela o Pix, fernandoschmude@hotmail.com. Segue lá, @fernandoschmude no Twitter, né? Segue na Twitch, F1S Live, conteúdo lá de Bills, de Madden e tudo mais, tá? E assim, gente, fica ligado, se inscreve no canal do Buffalo Rumblings, se inscreve no meu canal pessoal, né? Ativa o sininho ali para não perder nada, né? Você vai esquecer ali que o Steve vai participar na terça, toca o sininho lá, notificação, você lembra e assiste 7 horas ali, galera, às vezes está voltando do trabalho, consegue ouvir ali, né? No carro e tudo mais. Então, peço que se inscrevam, dão essa moral, deixa o seu like. Você que está assistindo em outro momento, deixa um comentário, deixa um Go Bills que seja aí na área de comentários do YouTube, deixa uma pergunta, é sempre um prazer trocar uma ideia com vocês aí e interagir com a galera na área de comentários do YouTube. E só tenho a agradecer a todos que estão juntos aí, essa nova fase junto com o Buffalo Rumblings aí, abrindo portas, né? Quem dera, eu jamais imaginava que o Steve estaria um dia aí junto com a gente aqui, trocando essa ideia, e vai estar aí, né? Falando com a Bills Máfia Brasil aí e da América Latina sobre wide receivers, sobre Buffalo Bills. O Lucas falou que prefere mais proteção para o Josh Allen. Na 27 vai sobrar bom talento. Verdade, Lucas, vai sim. Inclusive CB vai. Cara, tem talento legal nessa 27. Tem talento para dar trade down, como eu fiz no nosso último mock ali na terça-feira. Dei uma trade down e fiquei com o Siak e Ika ainda, né? No último mock draft ali, no 1.5, que eu fiz em inglês, né? 1.0 foi com o João Paulo, tá aí, parceiro. O Léo Carneiro também, né? A gente fez um mock legal aí, para quem não viu semana passada. Vai aí na área de vídeos aí, dá uma olhada lá. Steve e Fernando vai ser demais. Sou fã dos dois e tem até a 13 do Johnson aqui. Agora eu preciso de goleiro só. E aí, agora ficou ruim para mim agora, João. Não, mas, pô, tô te devendo, né, velho? Quando der um pulo no Rio aí, vou ter que preparar essa daí. Mas show demais, galera. Então, muito obrigado a participação de todos. Espero que tenham gostado aí. A participação do Joe, para mim, foi muito legal. Foi bem legal trocar essa ideia com ele. E não se esqueça, terça-feira estive aqui com a gente, então conto muito com vocês. Gente, divulga, né? Compartilha o link, divulga para a galera aí que, né, não só Bills, né? Galera que gosta de futebol americano em geral, quem foi torcedor do Niners, do Chargers, que o Steve encerrou lá e tal. Galera, vem prestigiar, afinal de contas, ajuda bastante o canal essa participação e que a gente possa fazer uma recepção legal, né? Que o Steve possa ver a Bills Máfia em peso aqui, trocando essa ideia com ele na terça-feira, às 19 horas de Brasília. Beleza, galera? Então é isso. Um grande abraço a todos, obrigado pela participação e vejo vocês na terça-feira aí, juntamente com o Steve, para falar mais de Buffalo Bills, de wide receiver, de draft e da própria carreira do Steve, trocar uma ideia, fazer umas perguntas aí, tirar umas dúvidas sobre algumas curiosidades da carreira dele. Grande abraço a todos, até a próxima. Go Bills!